And thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Why, in the UNAIDS mind, must we be putting people first when it comes to tackling inequalities?
So putting people first is not just an approach that says I will care for people, but is an approach that says I will listen to people. People need to be first in line for making those decisions, not just in terms of for getting the help. Because every other approach that we failed doesn't succeed. If you look at countries that are succeeding and countries that are failing, if you do put people first, if you let communities lead in decision making, if you guarantee the rights of everybody, if you ensure that services are tailored to people's needs, if you ensure that there's no shortages, in those countries the HIV response is succeeding. Those are the ones who are on the path to end AIDS. So the tough reality that other policymakers need to deal with is that if you are failing on justice, you're failing on health. And if you're failing on the most marginalized people in your society, you're failing on every person in your society. It should be enough, just morally, that people should care about the weakest and poorest and most vulnerable. But here we can say to them, look, the science says something, that the right thing to do is also the only intelligent, smart thing to do. There is no success without equity. There is no public health without equity. And that's a really, really important message. I think some people didn't want to hear that. I think communities have been saying that loud out loud.
What's preventing us from preventing and hitting those targets of 2030?
What's preventing us is that we are leaving people behind. In fact, we're not just leaving people behind, we're pushing them outside. When you have hateful laws that tell people we will hunt you down for being gay, we will crush your life because you have a drug dependence, we will stigmatize and shame you because you're in sex work. And then you say to people, oh, can you come into the clinic? I mean, who wants to do that? And so we won't have prevention until we have inclusion.
Who do you think's struggling the most? I mean, marginalized communities, but there's marginalized and then we break them into the categories. Who's struggling the most, do you think, that we are not giving the attention to that needs to get it?
I think the issue is the intersections. I think that there has been a recognition, for example, that gay men need services and systems which empower them. But if you take a country like Brazil or you take a country like the US, you find that new infections are declining amongst white gay men, but not under black gay men. I think similarly, if you look at people who use drugs, it's really tough to be a man who uses drugs. Much tougher to be a woman who uses drugs. If you look at sex workers are all marginalized, all oppressed, all excluded. But for, say, trans sex workers or for undocumented sex workers, for migrant sex workers, things are much, much harder. So it's when you look at those intersections, when you look at class, when you look at race, when you look at how that intersects with identities, I think that's when you see those who are most excluded. It's those intersections of inequality that things are hardest. But that's also where we get the greatest wisdom and the greatest ideas. And really important to stress that those people who are having it hardest are not victims waiting for help. They are the solutions providers who we all need to listen to and get behind.
So is part of bridging the gap of those inequalities is making sure that those people are being put first and put at the table to have these conversations?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think any process that is exclusive leads to an outcome that is exclusive. And so sometimes people say, oh yes, communities have such an important role in providing services. They do, but not only. Communities have the most important role in shaping services. If you only come to people at the end and ask them to implement your plan, you're guaranteed to fail. So in a way, I'll tell you who's having it toughest, and that's the old guard, the elite, who struggle to let go, who struggle to hand over.
This all feels like it's and it must be at government level, at policy making level, but what about everyday people? What about folks on the street, your neighbours, who go, I wish I could do more. I wish other than making a donation or walking in an AIDS walk or something, what can we all do to help bridge these gaps, to help bring about this change so that we do hit those targets in 2030?
So I think one is to take the shame out of health. I'm a parent, And we know that for parents it can be difficult to talk to young people about sex, for example.
No one wants to talk about sex with mum and dad. Nobody. I mean, we're all doing it, but we don't talk about it.
But I think we need to get comfortable.
Well, how do we do that? That's a whole other conference we should talk about, because it all comes down to stigma, doesn't it?
Yes.
Really, at the end of the day, I've been
Yes.
saying this for years. HIV is not killing people. AIDS is not. It's stigma that is killing us. It is stigma that is preventing us from reaching these targets, because it all starts with that stigma that has the knock-on effects, whether we're criminalizing, whether we're hunting you, that's a fair statement.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that one of the crucial things about stigma is that stigma can drive bad laws, and bad laws can exacerbate stigma, and we've got to get rid of those bad laws. We shouldn't be putting people in prison who haven't done anybody any harm. Just because you might disapprove of what someone does, you might not like it if someone wears a tan suit, but that doesn't make it a crime. So, one is about bad laws, but the second is, it's not just about bad laws, it's about cruel hearts. And so when you said, what can ordinary people do? We should call out when people mock or tease or laugh at sex workers or people who use drugs or LGBTQ people. That the cruelty in language, the cruelty in jokes or jibes or snarky asides, they kill. And so I think the responsibility of all of us is that. So it isn't just about politicians should do this, which they should, or donors should do this, which they should, or drugs companies should share, which they should. All of that's true. But all of us as ordinary people have a responsibility to our neighbors. And I guess the thing to ask would be, if you think about that most excluded person, Gandhi once said, think about the poorest person you know, and whatever you do, do in their interests. Well, what if we had a variation on that and we said, think about the most excluded person you know. So those intersections of inequality. So the black, trans, poor, migrant, sex worker who uses drugs. Think about them. What would they say that you did for them? What would they say about how you treated them? Would they say that you treated them with respect, that you made them feel empowered and safe and strong? I think that's the thing that perhaps all of us can aspire to be the kind of person who the most excluded person would say, you made me feel included.
Ben, it's a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. A really, really interesting conversation. That is going to do it for this special Plus Talk. Remember, you can like, follow and share us across all of your favorite social platforms. We are at Plus Life Media, and you can get more information by visiting our website, pluslifemedia.com. Until next time, be nice to one another. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.